early lightning delay in Gainesville, Florida, and Florida State, just what they need. They're not waiting around to announce the game times for the CWS. I thought they would wait until after tonight's game, but nope. Coastal will play the Florida State winner Sunday, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Sunday, 8 o'clock Eastern time. I guess we need to check on the others. We'll do that in just a moment. To the phones we go, and it's Lee in Somerville with us here on Sports Talk. Good evening, Lee. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Look, I just want to tell you I enjoy listening to y'all on my commute home from work, which is sometimes can last an hour. But I really appreciate y'all. And I went to the ball game Saturday, and I'm proud of the Gamecocks, and I'm really proud of Coastal Carolina, for what they've done. And but the one thing I thought that could have happened at Carolina's ball game yesterday was sitting in the stands. It seemed like there wasn't a whole lot of enthusiasm. It seemed like the players were kind of down. And with the low calls, with the calls, what I thought was just below the knees, I thought Chad Holbrook should have come out there about the seventh inning and argued and got himself come out the game to get the fans and the ball players fired up, because there is no Monday now.
Well, I mean, I appreciate your passion and your enthusiasm, but that wouldn't have done them any good to have him tossed. I mean, what they should have done as a team, coaching-wise and collectively, and maybe they talked about it, they just never did, was adjust. After a couple of innings, you see the umpire is calling the low strike. The thing is, I don't think they had a beef because he was calling it both ways. He called the low strike when Oklahoma State was batting, called the low strike when the Gamecocks were batting. You as a team, you have to make that adjustment and realize where the umpire strike zone is going to be that day. So I don't know that it was there was anything worth arguing about from their standpoint. Let me ask you this, as somebody who was in the stands during the game, what was it like out there in terms of dealing with the heat and the humidity?
Listen, my wife and I, we went to that ball game because we wanted to be there, and it was absolutely miserable, but we stayed to the last out.
Yeah.
But you know what? I wouldn't have changed it for the world. We wanted to be there to support the Gamecocks, and I was proud of what they did this year. And so, I mean, I enjoyed it, and I'll be back early next year when they open up, and I'll show up on a weekend game when I can drive up there and drive back home. But I appreciate what they've done.
Do you think, as I do, I don't know if Pro thinks this way or not, but do you think that they'll make it to Omaha next year, all things being considered, barring any unforeseen major injury or departure of a player or two that they'll be counting on?
Yeah, I think they got a really good chance of making it. But I disagree with you. I mean, really, to me, I told my wife about the seventh inning. I said, Holbrook needs to come out here, and he needs to start arguing and get himself tossed to get the fans in the game, because the fans only got in the game about 2 or 3 different times during that 9-inning ball game.
That's what happens when a pitcher shuts you down. It
I
can take the juice right out of you.
And I understand that, but I also thought that he needs to do a little something. And it's just personal opinion. And I got a lot of respect for Holbrook, and I got a lot of respect for the Gamecocks. But every once in a while, you need to do a little something different. Maybe step out of the box. And I know if he gets chunked, he's probably not going to coach on Monday. But if they don't win, they're not going to be there on Monday anyway.
Well, see, my point was when I saw both games, and I watched them on the tube. I thought both umpires are giving those strikes. And I could have sworn I heard the guy holler strike, but I could swear I could hear in my brain, it's hot. And, hey, anything near that strike zone is going to be a strike, because I'm not standing out here all day.
Yeah. Listen, I tip my hat to the home plate umpire because he's the guy of the umpiring crew. It's got to wear the gear, and it's as hot as the air temperature was down there on the ground, it has to be even hotter. And to squat back there and call that game, and I don't see how you just don't get dizzy and fall out. Especially, I saw the umpire when he took his gear off one time. He's not a young man.
No,
that was not a young man sitting back there. So, but anybody that makes it through it, the players, the fans, deserve a lot of credit. Thank you, Lee. I don't think arguing would have done them any good. I'll be honest with you. Getting tossed would not have done. And get it. I thought the fans were great. I don't know. You were out there. I'm in the press box. You were amongst them. I thought there was energy. I thought there was a buzz. I thought they reacted to every call positively or negatively. I don't know that Holbrook could have done anything more. Let's go to Will in Ladstone. Next call here on Sports Talk. Good to have you with us, Will. How you doing?
Thanks, Phil, and greetings from Ladson, home of Gamecock great Harold Green.
Yes, sir.
And Phil, I have been going to Carolina games since September of 1974, and in that time I've missed 4 home games. So I know a lot about how the weather has been, but Phil, I think that Sunday yesterday was the hottest I have ever experienced at a Carolina home game of any type.
Wait. You've only missed 4 home baseball games?
No, home football games.
Home football games. Okay. I was going to really, I was really going to celebrate you if you had said you'd only missed 4 home baseball games.
Yeah, 4 home games since 1977.
Okay.
But, on Saturday, there was some cloud cover from about the 4th or 5th inning on. There was no cloud cover yesterday in the bleachers.
Yeah.
And so I spent most of the time, as so many did, under the shade, going back and forth. I congratulate the athletic department for providing the ice and the cups of water and all that. And but I guess that the deciders, which was I guess ESPN, they're not from around here, and who knew it would be 98 degrees is what my smartphone app AccuWeather said. It was 98 at 2:30. It was 98 at 5:05.
Yeah.
And so it would have been nice to play it at night. Ideally, I'm sure it might have been hot in other places, but it was pretty darn hot. The only thing I can compare it with is the heat was the year before last, the home opener in football against North Carolina. I remember pulling up into the parking lot, getting out of the car. It's like a blast furnace.
Yeah.
That was the game that had the lightning delay. And
well,
before that,
I'm going to have, hopefully we'll have Ray Tanner on with us maybe tomorrow night as a member of the selection committee to talk about the World Series and how he thinks his committee did and all that kind of stuff. But, should they take under consideration weather conditions when they make these times? I mean, you had to know setting a 3:00 game time for television purposes. I guess that's why it was done, to fit it into one of the channels that ESPN was going to be televising on around all their other programming. I mean, you had to know it was going to be boiling hot in Columbia, South Carolina on June the 11th at 3 p.m. And let's face it, I mean, it's uncomfortable for everybody, fans, players, coaches, media, the poor guys out there running the cameras. You know how hot they had to be. It's not pleasant. So how do you get around it? I mean, you want every game to be televised. I don't know how you work that out, because I don't know how ESPN does its thing when it comes to that. I don't know that there is an answer, except try to put the games in the South in June at night and work it out that way, or move more regionals to the North where it's cooler.
It was very difficult because, even Miami had a high noon start. They started at noon.
Yeah. I don't think it's, but Miami's not as hot as Columbia, right? Miami's got the ocean breezes and all that stuff.
They got the breeze and that sort of thing. And of course, they had no cloud cover. And it really is hot when you have no cloud cover and a little breeze. It's almost like you're slowly baking, like I did at Brooklyn Case's graduation that Friday, when they got the stage sitting there in the middle of the morning on that artificial turf, and we're sitting on metal seats. So you get parboiled when that happens.
Hey, thanks for your phone call. We appreciate it. 800-956-7266. Back in a moment.
Information. Information. Information.
Okay, still in a weather delay there in Gainesville. Not sure when they're going to get started up there. And, of course, we've got, Game 5 of the NBA Finals tonight. Golden State. Golden State will be minus a key player who, decided to he took exception to LeBron, talking about Green. Mm-hmm. Took exception to LeBron stepping over him the other night. Back to the phones we go. Keith and Aiken, welcome into Sports Talk. Keith, how are you? Hello, Keith. Keith, are you still with us? Going once, going twice. Goodbye. No, Keith. Well, if your line dropped, Keith, you want to get back with us, give us a call, 800-956-7266. Bottom of the hour, we'll visit with our good friend, Kevin Cohen from The Point Radio here in Columbia. Kevin is a former sportscaster before he turned political and spent a lot of his years in Gainesville at the University of Florida, was educated at the University of Florida, covered sports, covered the Gators very closely, and probably in the sports world from the Florida area knows Jeremy Foley as well as anybody. And the reason I want to have him on is because when an athletic director in the SEC East of his magnitude in particular retires, that affects the entire division, depending on who they end up hiring. Who will be the lead candidates for that job? I don't know. I have no clue. Georgia's AD came from Florida.
Yes.
Would he be tempted to go back? Would they go after him? Would they go hard after him? Who would they eyeball? Would Florida try and look at a Ray Tanner? Would they try and look at a Dan Radakovich? I mean, they've got obviously a ton of money, or will they just stay in home and go off the Jeremy Foley tree?
You know, it's interesting. You talk about the musical chairs because it's ironic. Arizona upsets Mississippi State at their regional, and Mississippi State's former athletic director is not athletic director in Arizona.
Right.
So he was in the stands. The interesting thing about Jeremy Foley, Phil, as far as the job he had at Florida, interestingly enough, it seems like he had a tremendous level of job security because he is the first athletic director. I mean, personally, at that level, at that job, like a Florida, where he looked for the young coach about to turn the corner. Usually those schools grab the guy and they take him from you and they go. But he was the one, he spots a Urban Meyer from Utah. He gets a 29-year-old Billy Donovan to come to Gainesville. And those are the type of coaches he hired, and he had a good eye for that.
Here is the schedule at Omaha now, the complete schedule. First game Saturday at 3 o'clock, Oklahoma State and Santa Barbara. Second game, Miami and Arizona, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Sunday, Texas Tech versus TCU at 3, and then it'll be Coastal Carolina against Florida or Florida State, the last game on Sunday night. Be right back. Back we are, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornblutz, the Professor Tom Hayes with you here on a Monday night. We'll take more calls in a little bit. If you'd like to get in line, 800-956-7266 is the number. And again, they're in a lightning delay in Gainesville, Florida, and Florida State, waiting to settle their super regional. Earlier today, like a bolt of lightning, I guess, the word came that Jeremy Foley is going to retire after 25 years as the AD with the Gators and over 40 years in their athletic department. Our good buddy Kevin Cohen, who once went to school at UF and once covered the Gators and knows Jeremy Foley very well from their professional times together, joins us here on Sports Talk from the Point Radio in Columbia, our wonderful affiliate. How are you, sir?
Doing well, Phil. How are you tonight?
We're great, and thank you for joining us. So,
sure.
Did this surprise you?
No, not really. I mean, it's been kind of bantered about for about a year or so now that Jeremy wanted to get the football and the basketball stabilized with the hiring of Coach Mack in football, and then obviously with Billy Donovan going and bringing in new basketball, wanted to get some stability there, some facilities that he wanted to take care of, getting things taken care of. After that, people were kind of saying there's not much left. I mean, he's kind of been to the top of the mountain and stayed at the top of the mountain as an athletic director for about as long as you can do it in this industry, with no problems, with no NCAA issues, and 27 national championships amongst his different sports in Florida. So he's about as successful an athletic director as maybe college athletics has ever seen.
Do you think he's the best current sitting athletic director in the country?
I don't think there's anybody close. I mean, there's not a sport at Florida that doesn't win. He averages more than one national championship a year at his school, and it's not something you're talking about where it's one sport that just wins over and over again. It's all of the sports, whether it's Olympic-style sports or it's the big sports like football or basketball. You've seen it everywhere, and obviously Florida plays Florida State tonight in baseball. They're 9 innings away from either having their season end or making another trip with Coach Sully to Omaha for a potential baseball championship. So, they just finished up a run of 3 straight years winning gymnastics championships, 2 straight years winning national championships in softball. So they win it in all sports. They just won a track and field national championship over the weekend. So they top to bottom, one thing about Jeremy Foley is he demanded excellence in every sport, and mediocrity was just not an acceptability.
Well, let's for a moment, Kevin, throw Will Muschamp out of the equation, okay? The thing that got me about Jeremy Foley is if you're at Florida, I can sell the best coach to come to Florida. But he seemed to have such a strong, job security that he looked for the young up-and-comer that was just about to turn the corner, and he figured that I plant them in Gator soil, they're going to thrive. And I think he totally does that across the board in all the athletic programs.
Once he figured out the Billy Donovan hire from Marshall after 2 years of being a head coach, I think he really believed that was going to be his formula with all coaches. And he tried that obviously with Will Muschamp. He even tried it with Ron Zook. Those are his 2 hires that maybe didn't go that well. I mean, they weren't total disasters. In some places, they would have been considered pretty good. But obviously at Florida, when you were following Steve Spurrier and then Ron Zook followed him, and then obviously you're firing Urban Meyer the way Coach Muschamp did, respectively, that's a tough thing to do. So it's hard to follow a legend, as we'll see how Coach Muschamp does his second time around following a legend, and one from Florida, in fact. It really is interesting Coach Spurrier's name comes up because I believe Florida's success has a lot to do with Steve Spurrier, and Jeremy Foley's success has a lot to do with Steve Spurrier. Even though Jeremy did not hire Steve Spurrier, they were there together at the same time when Coach Spurrier came in, and what he did to raise the level of football, he also raised the level of all the sports and the profile and the revenue, and just so much happened at Florida once Coach Spurrier got there that it really made a difference in terms of being able to sell Florida nationally. And it became a national brand under Jeremy Foley.
Talking with Kevin Cohen from the Point Radio in Columbia, longtime sportscaster in Florida, observer and cover of Jeremy Foley, who's departing Florida in October. What does this mean to the SEC East with his departure?
This is you got to be careful if you're the president down in Florida, because you don't want to do another Ron Zook hire following a legend. So you got to go out and get someone who's going to really subscribe to the same basic philosophy as Jeremy Foley when it comes to facilities, when it comes to how you treat coaches, when it comes to other things, because there's an expectation there that all sports are going to be supported, and that he's going to care about women's swimming as much as he cares about football. Now, maybe when it comes to understanding bottom line, he might not, but when it comes to showing support for coaches, he was notorious for being there in the stands, and he was just a big fan of all of the sports, and it showed. I mean, you got to keep in mind, SEC has an all-sports trophy, guys, and Florida has won it 24 of the last 25 years. I mean, that's beyond dominance. There's not even a program close. And this is not me talking as a Florida grad. I mean, the numbers bear it out. It's 24 out of 25 years that he's been there, 17 straight, that they've won the all-sports trophy in the Southeastern Conference for excellence from top to bottom. So it's just kind of an expectation that whoever comes in there next is going to have to maintain.
Yeah, it's the kind of balance you love to have if you're an athletic director. So let me just ask you more directly from what you're hearing early on from the people you talk to. Who are some of the names we should expect to hear talked about with this job?
I'm not there yet. I think most of the people in Gainesville are still shocked that it's finally happening, even though people in the media knew. I don't know that this has been something where the school president has had, like most athletic directors have, that little drawer with 3 or 4 names on a list that we always talk about. But I would assume Jeremy Foley has an exit strategy and that he's got a few names, if he's asked for help, he's got a few names of people he respects from around the country that would make the most sense. You're going to have to go in and get someone that immediately comes in and commands respect. I can't see it being any promotion from within. I really do believe they have to go out and they have to get someone who's already had very proven success.
Greg McGarity at Georgia, would he be a possibility?
Yeah, I like Greg. I've known Greg McGarity for a lot of years, and the only thing about that is McGarity is a Georgia grad, so he kind of went home when he went to Georgia. So I don't know if, even though he spent a lot of years learning under Jeremy, I don't know if the interest is to leave there and go back. That's a name that you'd throw out there just because of the years there. But, McGarity's the Georgia grad.
While we've got you, it's mid-June. Time to get your preseason prediction on the Gamecocks.
To me, they look like a team that if they get bowl eligible, which I think they can, I think that would be a great season. I think bowl eligibility is not a shock. You look at the Eastern Division, and I think it's a division that has so much what might be type thing. I mean, you don't know what to expect from Georgia. You don't know what to expect with new quarterbacks at Florida. You look at Tennessee, and everybody talks about Tennessee as being so special, but we've heard that really for the last 2 or 3 years, and they haven't lived up to the hype just yet. So I think Carolina is in a situation where they can go out, and if they win the games they're supposed to win, which we say this every year, win the games you're supposed to win, and then take a couple of those 3 or 4 games on the schedule every year that you look at and you say, well, those are toss-ups. If you go 500 in those, then I think they get a good chance to go bowling, and I think that'd be a good year for a first-year coach.
As I look back on, let's see here, as I look back on the Sports Talk Pick'em Challenge from last football season, in which you participated.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I don't know if I've gone back and added up the bowl game picks yet. I usually forget to do that.
What you'll find is that I led for about 75% of the season, and then I faded late.
Yeah, you were 75 and 55 going into the bowl picks. I need to go ahead and update this thing on the bowl picks to give us a winner. I never did that, but I don't think you won.
I don't think I won either, but what's interesting is usually it's people who don't even watch sports, and they just end up picking teams based on uniform colors.
Yeah. Matt, the newsman, I think, won. I think I finished last. Unless I had a great bowl season, I think I finished last. Kev, as always, we appreciate it. Great talking to you. Thanks for being a part of the Sports Talk family, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Kev Cohen from The Point Radio here in Columbia. Appreciate his observations on Jeremy Foley and what may happen there at Florida, with Foley announcing his retirement effective the 1st of October. Back in a moment here on Sports Talk. Okay, thanks again to Kev Cohen for being with us here tonight on Sports Talk. Lines are now back open, 800-956-7266. Love to hear from a Coastal Carolina fan who went to Baton Rouge and tell me what that was like. There was a little section of you. They showed you on television, a little section of you. Saw Matt Hogue, the athletic director, sitting in the group, and congratulations to him. What an exciting time. You know, Matt's a good friend of ours, former sportscaster. Went down to Coastal Carolina when it was a complete afterthought. When it was it might have still been an NAIA school when he went down there. I'm not sure. Small time, small budget, small school, but a chance to go down and broadcast and continue his career there. Remember, you knew Matt. You worked with Matt.
Mm-hmm.
And took a chance, you know, going down there. And you feel good for people who started on the ground floor as something was built. You know, a lot of people come in later on after it's already built and they enjoy the ride. The people who were there when it was nothing and helped build it, you really appreciate those people and feel good for those people. What?
No, I'm laughing because it's a great story, and we've seen the other side of it. Like, you bring in a lot of energetic people to start things off, like the first edition of the Charlotte Hornets did. And then got rid of them all, and then brought in NBA people the next year. Yeah, you're right. But you knew it was there. I mean, there's one thing for a school to be established, but the one thing that a school, 9 times out of 10, the school's not moving. And when you got that beach sitting there, and some people with talent, and it's a fledgling university that got its autonomy from the university system, you knew it was just a matter of time if you hire the right people. And you're right. Matt came on the ground floor and ended up broadcasting, and then something I didn't think he'd ever do, because I know how much he loved it, is put the mic down and get in the hot seat.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? It ain't a hot seat when you're winning. It only becomes hot when people around you start losing. And, you know, he'll have some decisions to make here coming up, because Mobley is not a young man, and Cliff Ellis is not a young man. And, they're not going to be coaching forever there. Probably a couple more years between them, I would imagine. I'm sure Coach Mobley wants to hang around long enough to get them established on the FBS level and in the Sun Belt. So, maybe through 2020 for him. I don't know if Cliff's going to coach that much longer. And Gary Gilmore is still, relatively a young guy, but he's been there 21 years. Those are your main three, and that's for a school, the enrollment size of Coastal. That's a pretty good looking threesome of head coaches. Back to the phones we go. Dan in Charlotte with us next here on Sports Talk. Good evening. How are you, Dan?
Phil, I just want to make one general comment about Jeremy Foley. I don't know if a lot of people realize this or not, but he was probably the most instrumental factor in the University of South Carolina joining the SEC.
How such?
From what I've read, him and Vince Dooley, Michael Mungo, and the group of leaders who at the time when they were wanting to join the SEC, they had extensive meetings with Jeremy Foley and some other leaders. But he was, from what I understand, he was the driving factor that influenced the rest of the other members of the conference to let South Carolina join the conference.
I wonder what it was that he saw that would be beneficial to the SEC. Yeah, Pro makes a good point. I said, what did he see that was beneficial? And he said, not letting Florida State in. Do you think that was it?
Yeah, not letting Florida State in, and it's it's like anything. It's the TV market, and they saw the growth and they saw the growth and in the University of South Carolina, and Michael Mungo and them, they had to promise the SEC that they would upgrade their facilities and everything when they joined. Of course, it took them a while to do it, but they did.
Yeah.
And they had to convince and of course he was the instrumental factor in helping convince the other leaders of the SEC to let them join.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I did not recall the relationship there between Foley and getting South Carolina into the SEC, but obviously they needed at that time back in 90, 91, 92, as all this was being put together, they needed some powerful people on their side, and having Vince and Foley on your side certainly had to be a big part of South Carolina getting accepted into the league. Hey, thank you for your phone call. We appreciate it, and we'll be back. Time for a couple more calls. If you want to join in, 800-956-7266. Now, coming up tomorrow night on Sports Talk, Gary Gilmore will be with us from Coastal Carolina. Talk about heading to the College World Series. I'll give him some if he does it. And I don't know if he's ever been to Omaha just as a fan, but I can advise him on some places to eat in Omaha. I can advise, I don't want to talk to his players about going across the river to the casinos. That's probably not a good thing.
What laundromats to go to?
When I've been there at the casinos, there's plenty of players hanging out in the casinos winning. I'm not going to name a name, but last time I was there was the last time South Carolina was there. And I got on a table, and a former USC player was in there, and he knew what he was doing. And he would just tell me what to do, and I'd win almost every time. And I watched him go to a table and just rack up. So anyway, that's part of the fun of Omaha is actually across the river in Council Bluffs, Iowa, right across the river where the casinos are. And you have a good time there. All right. Now, so we'll have that for you tomorrow night and other good stuff as well. Just to make it official, to close the book on it, having Kevin on reminded me to go back and grade our bowl picks. Well, we knew who was going to win, but I never got around to making it official. Just like we knew that David Beasley won the football filibuster. I never went back and did theirs. I need to go back and do theirs. Anyway, Matt, the newsman, finished up very strong with 9-3 in the bowl season. So he wins the championship, and in all expenses, he's on a trip to Hawaii, all expenses paid by his family. And so that's what he won here by winning the football challenge, and all expenses paid trip to Hawaii paid for by his family. 9-3, 92-60. That's good picking. He wins. Finishing second was former producer extraordinaire Graham Pope. He went 9-3, 84-68.
And he started off stumbling.
Finishing third, Professor Tom Hayes. Not bad. Third is just second loser. You went 9-3, 82-70.
Win place to show it. I'm the show, baby.
Finishing fourth, Kev Cohen, 5-7 in the bowl season, 80-62. Finishing fifth, K-Mac, stumbled home at 4-8, 76-76, and proud to bring up the rear this year with a 6-6 bowl season, 73-79. Your humble host. I vow to return to the top.
I just want to give my personal congratulations to Coastal. And see, this is better than stumbling around and have Rice come to your place and you beat them. To go into the lion's den and come out with the headdress, that's what you want. And they've done it.
No doubt about it. Okay, thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you, Carcinova Mason, for another fabulous job. And thank you, Pro. Everybody have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow here on Sports Zone.